Welcome to the channel, everybody. I hope you're doing fine. My name is Mike and today I try to answer the following question. How do I pick a Warhammer army? Now, before we start, no word from today's sponsor. I just want to let you know that this method / process that I'm about to show you today works for, I would say, all gaming systems out there. It doesn't matter if it's Warhammer 40k, if it's Age of Sigmar, Horus Heresy, or the upcoming Old World, you know, the Warhammer Fantasy Remake. It might even work with non-Games Workshop stuff. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm just returning to the hobby myself, because I played Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k back in the days as a teenager. It's been a while. And I just returned to the hobby, I'd say a little bit over a year ago. And as you can see, I'm taking this a little bit more seriously right now. But over a decade has passed and I was kind of disconnected with Warhammer, so I kind of want to share with today's video all the challenges and, roadblocks that you can encounter when you want to pick an army. On top of that, I just went through the whole process of creating an army myself just a couple months ago I'm actually still in the process of doing so, because I'm participating in an Army on Parade contest in my local Games Workshop store. So the video that you're seeing today is the first one of an upcoming playlist where I go through the whole process of creating an army, from picking it, painting it, and then at the end also creating a diorama. So that playlist will hopefully grow in the near future. Now, back to the question though, I think we have to discuss 4 topics when it comes to picking an army. First, we're gonna start with, you have to pick an army. You can do that based on looks, based on models, based on playstyle, so there's a little bit of discussion going on there. Afterwards, we have to build an army. Well, not actually assembling the parts, we're gonna build an army list. So, what models do I want to have in my army? How many points do I want? Once we have that, we're gonna discuss a paint scheme. This can be very basic, you just take the paint scheme out of the books, or you create something yourself. And then we also have to test the paint scheme, and I'm gonna show you how I did that. At the end of the video, I know this is now kind of point 5, but it's like smaller things that didn't really deserve their own chapter. I wanna share a few hints that helped me personally to pick my army. And I would say with that, let's get started. Now, let's start with the obvious step first. We have to pick an army. To be a little bit more precise, we have to pick a faction. There's multiple ways to do that. You can do that based on looks, based on models, based on lore, and based on playstyle. And I would say we start with the first one, picking an army based on looks. This is probably how most of the people pick their army. They look at it and then they wanna have a feeling of, yo, this looks badass. Of course, everybody has their own definition of what badass actually means. So let's go to a place where you can see all the models, and that is the store page from GW. Honestly, this is probably the most chill and convenient way to check what kind of armies exist and what models they have. And you might even cry a little bit because you can see the price tag every time you see an awesome model. But this should help you to narrow it down to a couple of armies. Or maybe you found already one that you like so freaking much that you decided, hey, this is the one. But the web store is not for everybody. Some people say, okay, but I want to see them in real life. Maybe you have the opportunity to visit your local Games Workshop store and have a chit chat with the local Games Workshop manager. They are normally pretty chill, at least the ones that I met, and they can help you out. They show you maybe a few models, talk to you, show you a few armies if they have them in the store. It kind of depends how big the store is. And maybe you can even have a little test match with a few minis. But it's not just how a single or a couple units look like in a web store, it's also how the whole army kind of presents itself on the table. Do you want something with a lot of minis? Then you can go with Skavens or Goblins. Do you want something where you have only a few models on the table and every single unit is an elite unit? Then you can maybe play Custodes in the 40k universe. It's really up to you. I personally like more melee combat and more fantasy. Back in the days I played, Warhammer Fantasy, and rest in peace, that doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it returns with Old World, we will see. For me, the choice was kinda easy. I wanted something with not too many minis, because you have to paint all of these. And I wanted strong minis, and I wanted them to be dark and gritty. So we had, Chaos. Again, I was a little bit hesitating to pick Chaos again because I played them back in the days, but I just think they're absolutely amazing. I think I found already my dream army back in the days. So you could say old habits die hard. But maybe you like more magic and you might be interested in Lumineth Realm Lords because dang dude, they have a lot of goddamn magic. Maybe you want an army that has more bow dudes, then even then you can take Lumineth Realm Lords and other factions. You want something that is heavily armored, you know, or futuristic humanity like Warhammer 40k with Space Marines, then go with that one. Or do you want aliens, then you can go with Tyranids. There's probably something for everybody out there. If you still couldn't decide what you want to play, then there is another way to make your decision. And that is picking an army based on models. And now you're probably like, dude, isn't this exactly the same thing that we just did? Kinda, but now we focus more on single elements of an army, like a hero or maybe a special unit. You have to keep in mind that when you pick an army, and maybe you do it because, dude, Teclis is amazing, or in my case, Archon is amazing. Yeah, you can't play the guy at the beginning when you pick an army, right? For my army on parade, I will have like 1,000, maybe 1,500 points, and there is just no room for a unit like that because they cost 800-900 points. Well, Teclis is cheaper, but you get my point, right? So you have nothing left on the table and, well, you don't even have a legit army list. So you have to find something that is a little bit smaller in budget. So I decided to check the character models that I have for my Slave to Darkness army, and Eternus released back in the days. I decided to make him my general, and that was also the moment where I decided I want a cavalry army. I'm not gonna go down the Tournamentalist path, I'm gonna go down the theme-based fluff army. I want something on the table that looks cool. Having a full army with only cavalry units is something that I deeply regretted. Painting that was not fun. So the difference between this approach and the previous one is that you pick a single unit or maybe a single hero and then you adjust the rest of the army to fit that. That is of course a little bit more challenging, but also a lot of fun. So, still not happy? Still can't decide what army you want to play? There are a couple more ways to pick an army. Picking an army based on lore. Now imagine this, you have like 3 to 5 armies that you like based on looks, based on models, but you can still not make your final decision. You can dip into the lore now. Be warned though, dipping into the Warhammer lore is quite overwhelming. A little flashback to teenage Mike. I played Warhammer Fantasy, but I also played Warhammer 40k. And I wanted to dip into that universe a little bit. And I was like, hey dude, Space Marines are nice. Giant dudes, power armor, heavy bolter, flamethrower. I like that. But there are quite a few chapters, and that is an understatement. So picking the right chapter that you identify with took me a while because you have to go through all the lore. At the end of the day, I took the Blood Angels. I don't know what it says about me, probably nothing good. The cool thing about the Warhammer lore is that most of it is easily accessible and even freely accessible. So you don't have to buy all the army books to dip deeper into the lore. However, army books are awesome. And you know what? I'm gonna show you another flashback because in my gaming streams when I tell people about Warhammer, they're like, yeah, you're just faking it. You're not actually playing Warhammer and you never did. You just want to impress us. I'm gonna show you this relic right here, right now. You know what this is? That is the army book Realm of Chaos. That is from 1990 something, I assume. So this book here is probably older than some of my viewers. The ancient scrolls, I would say. And I have to admit that back in the days, I picked most of my armies based on lore. I didn't care how good they were. I had Chaos because dark, gritty, mercilessly, absolute killer machines, not giving a single flying fuck about rules. Yeah, that was kinda appealing. But I also played High Elves, you know? The pure contrast was so appealing to me. These noble warriors fighting for the right cause, at least I think they did. The Warhammer lore is a little bit crazy, and that is probably a huge understatement. If you look at the Warhammer 40k lore and you're asking somebody, who are the good guys in the Warhammer 40k universe? Then the answer is no. There is evil and there is less evil, and that's it. At least that's my understanding of the Warhammer 40k lore. So I played Chaos, I played High Elves, I played also Dark Elves. Why the hell did I play Dark Elves?
You honestly don't remember? You still got the book?
Yeah, I still have the book.
Check out the cover page.
The cover? What about the... Oh.
And you might want to open the book.
Can I show this? Yeah, so I also have my old army book from Dark Elves. And Teenage Mike was not influenced at all by the cover or other artwork that you see here. It was all about the unique character design, the beautiful color scheme, and super interesting, deep and thrilling lore. And that's it. Nothing else. I also like the whole torturing stuff. I should probably cut that out. This is going in a direction that I don't like. And if you compare this to the army books from today, this here is Cities of Sigmar. Oh, look at this. Fancy. They're pretty similar, but they help you way more than back in the days. Again, you have like all of this here. This is lore. Then they come with pictures and also with some color schemes, and they explain to you how you paint everything. This would have been useful back in the days. But okay, everybody improves, and so does Games Workshop. Most of the time. Okay, we have now based on looks, based on models, and also based on lore. But there is one more. Picking an army based on playstyle. I'll be honest here with you guys, this is probably the most difficult approach from all of them. Especially when you're new to the hobby, because how the hell are you supposed to know how the single armies behave on the table if you never played before? Well, you can actually look that up. Either you watch a few YouTube channels that cover battle reports and you look up your faction that piqued your interest. You can also read a few battle reports and the white dwarfs, but that's kinda... You're not gonna buy now 100 white dwarfs, I guess. But you can just Google some blogs where they cover this. There's plenty of source material out there. The question that you have to answer for yourself is, what style do you want? Do you want a fast army? Do you care if the army is slow? Do you want quantity over quality? Do you want to have a lot of models on the table that flood over the enemies? Do you want single badass units that can stand their ground against multiple foes? Honestly, there is not really an answer here that I can give you. Only you can answer that. For me, it was, again, I like these elite units. I want badass dudes in heavy armor. I don't care that they are slower than others. I don't care that they're not that great in magic because, well, I have a cavalry army. Well, there's actually one sorceress in there, but still, magic is not really my thing. And I want something that is strong in melee. I could have gone also with Khorne or even Tzeentch if you want more magic. So even in one faction you can go multiple ways. It's similar in the Warhammer 40k universe. If you like a lot of shooting, a lot of blasting, then you probably will enjoy the Tau more than other factions. But I think it's safe to say that at the end of the day, Warhammer 40k is more guns and range fights, and Age of Sigmar is more close range and brawling. But yes, I know, as always, there are exceptions. Now, we're talking right now about playstyles, and there's one more thing I would like to talk about, just for the sake of completion, and that is tournament playstyle / tournament army lists. If you're new to the hobby and you decide to pick an army purely on how they perform in tournaments, I do not really recommend it. Only if you're really one of these super competitive players and all you can think about are tournaments. Then okay, give it a try. But otherwise I would not do that. Why? First of all, collecting an army is expensive. It takes a lot of time. Assembling the units, ideally painting them, in kind of a nice way, and then until you're ready to play. We're talking here about weeks and months, for some people even longer until you can play. If you're not connected with this army, and you only picked it because of some army list, some tournament army list, your motivation might die halfway through the project and you will not finish it. and then you're gonna be mighty, mighty sad. The other thing is that since it takes so long to finish your army, GW, you know, they do balance changes and your decision making might massively backfire, and once your army is done and ready to play, they are nerfed into the ground because they performed too well in tournaments. And then you're mighty, mighty sad as well. So if you really have the end goal of tournaments, then you can consider this. For everybody else, when you just want to play in your local group and you want to play with friends and you want to play for fun, not saying that playing in tournaments can't be fun, you should probably not go down this path. Take one of the other options. Next up, we're gonna build an army list. Okay, we are right now pretty happy because we picked an army and now it's about to build a list. So I'm doing this now, or I'm showcasing this now for Age of Sigmar because that's what I did. When you go to the Warhammer community page, you actually have list building tools. And here we are, I switched to my desktop PC, so that's why the microphone sounds a little bit different. Warhammer community page, and here you have the list building tools. So you have one for Warhammer 40k Kill Team, one for Warcry, and one for Age of Sigmar. I actually don't know if there's an online army builder for Warhammer 40k, but I would be surprised if that doesn't exist. If you know one, drop them in the comment section below so other people might find that. Okay, let's build our army. Now, first things first, point limit. Keep in mind that I'm participating in a contest, so my army can't be too big, otherwise I will never finish it. There's a deadline for this contest. And I am already behind. Alright, Chaos, then we're gonna take Slaves to Darkness, we're gonna take Knights of the Empty Throne, and we're gonna go with Metal. One of the downsides of the list building tool is that you don't really know what stands behind this Legion pick, so you still need the books. Select the faction, we just said we're gonna take Slaves to Darkness, and now we can add units. Keep in mind you need at least a leader as your general. You need a minimum amount of battle lines. The War Scroll Builder is telling you that. So minimum requirements here and here, the rest are limits. You can go beyond 2 for your battle lines. Now, let's pick some units. First, I said I want to have Eternus Blade of the First Prince as my general. So, general it is. I'm not going to do the other stuff. But you can already see hit points, the cost of the model, and also some stats are here. Now, although I said I want to have cavalry only, without any magic is probably a pain in the butt, so we're gonna take one Chaos Sorcerer Lord, especially since I have Mibelor, and I want her to be in the army because the model looks amazing. Then let's add some units. We're gonna take one Chaos Knights, because sure, we need some cavalry. We're gonna take one Chaos Marauder Horseman, and then maybe some Vanguards, some elite boys. Here we go. Now, we have at the top a live update, so we can see we're good on battle lines, we're good on leaders. We're kind of lacking the other stuff though, and we're close to 1,000 points. Now, we have the base structure of our army now. I want one Behemoth, and I'm gonna take a Mutalith Vortex Beast. They look amazing on a table, and keep in mind we're going for fluff and for style points. Although that thing will probably be a pain in the ass to paint. Okay, so we're still not at the limit. We're gonna take another Chaos Knight, one Chaos Marauder Horseman. This is pretty nice because they are cheap and you want to have some models on the table, obviously. You can also select here what kind of equipment they should wield. Now, we are currently sitting at 1.4 out of 1.5k. So one more unit. What we could do here, we take one of the chariots. I think they are 100. Well, they're 80 right now, but I think the one with the beasts is 100. Yeah, here's the one for 100. Well, I'm gonna go with this one because, well, style. What you have to keep in mind though is that these pages, same with the War Scroll Building app, they update the points of the units. So if there's any point changes, for example, Eternus in the book, the Chaos Knights in the book, and I also think the Chariot in the book, they are more expensive over there compared to what they actually cost in the War Scroll Builder. So if you want to have an accurate representation of the correct points, it's definitely worth it to check out the War Scroll Builder. Then at the end we can save this as a PDF. Save as YouTube, player name, Mike, list name, YouTube, Mike. Yes, I'm a very creative person. Then I'm gonna save this. And this is how it looks like. Pretty simple, but keep in mind that I skipped a few selections. Alright, we picked a faction, we picked models, we built an army, we have the army list. Now let's get ready and get colorful. To make your army stand out, we need to pick a color scheme. I want to start this chapter with a little bit of flashback, because back in the days, I played Warhammer Fantasy, High Elves, I played some Eldars 40k, and I still have most of these models. And a paint job is something that really elevates your army on a table. A really good one. And teenage me was more concerned about getting the minis, building them and playing, and not really about painting. So you can see already this is far away from any competitive standard. Sure man, there's one or two highlights, but yeah, I didn't give a damn about it. It's kind of the same for the Warhammer 40k. I played it a little bit later, so I would say the paint job on these is... Well, there's an improvement, but it's still far away from anything you would say, yeah, this is nice. Even the bases are like, well, green color, and here we go. But this is how we're rolling today, with, I would say, 1 year of experience of a little bit more serious practice with painting. This is the Eternus model. I didn't like the horns on the model, so I changed the helmet. I also changed the cloak, or let's say the flag that is on the original Eternus model, and did it in my own style. Before I dive deeper into this topic, let me just get one thing clear here. If you use the, the provided color schemes from Games Workshop, that is totally fine. As long as your minis are painted, you are awesome. But I have a major flaw. I think it's a flaw. I am sometimes too ambitious and I want to actually stand out with my army. I want to have something unique. I want to have something that nobody else did before, which is probably impossible by now, but I still want to try. So I'm doing my own color scheme. And I wanted it like the whole army being ice themed. Now I know what you're thinking by now. This is absolutely not original. And you're not completely wrong. Plenty of people did already ice bases, but at least the colors, I wanted to have something unique on the table. So I'm gonna do that myself. And the primary color is probably a metallic because, well, Chaos Knights and Armored Horses, they have a crap ton of metal on them. So this is the color that is gonna lead for everything else. Now, where should I get inspiration when I have to pick colors? And honestly, the best source probably is Mother Nature. So I did some Google research, and of course we found plenty of pictures that we could use as a reference. And honestly, I didn't even think about it. Yeah, sure, you have your bright blues, you have your dark blues. The thicker the ice is or the deeper the ice is, the more blue you have. But there's also a lot of green in ice. And I decided I want to have some of this green and a very dark blue. And then we have to transform this into a metallic color. So with that idea in mind, we're gonna start mixing paints. And let me tell you that these pots right here, they are not fun for this. Sadly, GW still don't have these dropper bottles, which is big sad, honestly. Now, before you get a heart attack, no, I did not pour the whole pots into a bottle and check the color that I got at the end. I had a piece of paper and I took a drop of each color, mixed it on a white piece of paper and checked the color. And you're gonna see the end result in a bit. As mentioned already, that was not a fun process. So I got my own dropper bottle, got a funnel and started pouring. And honestly, that took a while, so I just put them upside down into the funnel and did something else in the meantime. Because this was painfully slow. Now we have our first two colors in there, time to pour in the metallics. I went with a pretty dark one, Lead Belcher, and before people are like, well, why do you use the Citadel colors if there's plenty of colors out there that have already the dropper bottles? Well, I wanted something that people can recreate easily, and I think almost everybody starts with the Citadel colors. And here we are, finally we have all the color down in our dropper bottle, and the last thing to do was shake it, baby, and we're gonna mix it. And here we go. This was my final result. Honestly, I was super happy with that one. Now, the only thing missing is a cringe name. And I know what you're thinking about now. Dang, he's a marketing genius. I wonder if I can hire him. I'm sorry, I'm booked for the whole next year. I was pleasantly surprised with the color that we got there at the end. And I think it's a perfect mix of blue, green and metallics. Now it's time to pick the other colors. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna mix more colors. I'm just gonna take some from GW. Now I took a picture of the color on a white sheet of paper, used a color pick to get the code for the color. This is important because if you wanna get matching colors with your leading color, you should use a color wheel. So I type in my color code and then you can see you can go with complementary, monochromatic. I mean, monochromatic is not really the way to go. Analogous is basically taking the colors that are right next to it. We can use triadic, we can use tetradic, and honestly, the secondary and all the other colors, they were not really that nice with most of the picks. I played around a little bit. What if I changed the color? And yeah, I was not satisfied, but I was really hooked with my primary color. I really wanted that one to work. And Analogous was kinda the one that worked. And that's how I picked my color scheme. So I showed you now my color scheme. And there's one more thing though, because before my models ended up like this, we did something else. Let's have a look at the last chapter, and that is testing your paint schemes. Now, even if you take like the provided color schemes from GW or another source material, you should paint a few minis and see how it looks in, real life and also with your skills. Because let's be honest, the people painting Games Workshop stuff, they are really good. They are monsters. It's their job, alright? So obviously they're good at it. And maybe the color scheme doesn't work for you because you don't have the skills yet. Or maybe you wanna check your color scheme, that's what I did, and try to fool around with it. And I did some adjustments because yeah, you have your 3 base colors, but what about the shading? What about the highlighting? Maybe you need to mix other metallics or maybe a little bit more green so it fits better together. Do I just paint some cloaks purple? Do I just paint the grips of the weapons purple? There is just so much that you have to fool around with to get the proportions right, and I think I somewhat managed that. The point that I tried to bring across is take a few minis, even if it hurts, and go for it. See if it fits, see if you like it, because sometimes a color scheme on infantry looks good, but once you have to mix it with other colors because you put it on a monster or you put it on a horse, it's looking awkward. So I highly recommend doing that and investing maybe 1 or 2 evenings in fooling around just with colors. Also, it's a nice learning experience. Now we're almost through with the video. There's just a few more things I want to talk about, especially when it comes to picking an army. Now, I got one question a lot, and that is, why spend so much money and why not just print them? Well, first of all, a printer isn't free. A good printer costs a lot of money and you can just buy the army in the Games Workshop store instead of buying a printer. Of course, if you're more invested into the hobby and you say, hey, I want a printer for like basing pits, that's what I use my printer actually most of the time, then sure, it is an option, you can do that as long as the models that you print somewhat resemble the model that you want to use them for. And on top of that, if your enemy doesn't want to play against a 3D printed army, you kind of have to respect that. In the hobby scene, normally it's not a big issue. People are chill about that, at least most of them are. If you want to go to a tournament though, that's a different story. I think, or as far as I know, you cannot use 3D printed minis for tournaments. Sure, if you change a weapon or something like that, that will not be an issue, I think. And it's the same with your local Games Workshop store. It really depends on how chill the Games Workshop manager over there is. Because I think a good comparison is you go to a restaurant and you bring your own food, but you want to use their plates and their service and their location. That is kind of odd, right? Some of them will probably be chill with that, but if they say, hey man, listen, no, then you can't really blame them for that. Another thing that I would like to give you as a tip when it comes to picking an army is to check your local group density. What do I mean by that? Well, and I'm exaggerating now, of course, if you have 14 people playing Warhammer and 13 people are playing Space Marines, do you want to be number 14 playing Space Marines? Probably not. So if you have a couple armies picked that you think look cool and one of them is an underdog, going with the underdog can be quite fun. Also, it's an expensive hobby, so maybe you check for second-hand minis. And for these underdog armies, you might find them even cheaper. Now, I don't really like to talk about money, but I think it's necessary when it comes to picking an army. Because, yeah, there is a reason why people call this stuff plastic crack. Once you're addicted to that, you don't have any more money to buy actual drugs. And you saved, I guess? So you should look for deals where you can save some money. Even GW sometimes has a good offer that is actually saving you quite a few bucks. For example, the Vanguard boxes. If you need these units for your army anyway, might be reasonable to buy that, because if you buy each unit on its own, it will cost you way more money. It's also a way to maybe create your first army that you just buy the Vanguard box, put that in your army list and then fill it up with other units. The next thing that you can do is your local marketplace, you know, your Facebook marketplace or eBay, you can buy some used minis, or maybe reach out in your local group and say, hey guys, do you have some units that you don't need anymore? Because I can talk from experience that every Warhammer dude out there has its own pile of shame. I think we call this by now, because it's 2023, pile of opportunities, because pile of shame is so negative. And I kinda like that, so we're gonna call it from now on pile of opportunities. And with that positivity, I'd like to end the video. I hope this will help you with your decision making and give you some good input to make your final decision and be happy with whatever army you're going to pick. Now, you could do me a favor and maybe share this with people that are looking for a guideline on how to pick their own army. Maybe you have friends that you want to invite into the hobby. Maybe you know people who are not satisfied with their first army and could help them to find the right one. Who knows? And with that, the only thing that is left to say is, I wish you a happy day.